a story from a girl's perspective. I spent my whole life in a city where the only green spot was a tiny square behind our house. But I had heard a lot about my father's native land. He thought about them with and without reason. He talked about endless forests, pristine lakes, mountains, flower valleys, and the sun was brighter and the grass was greener. Not like our concrete metropolis with box houses and a dim sky. It is difficult to live next to a longing person. Everything is wrong. The food is wrong. The people are wrong. The air is wrong. It seemed like he would complain all his life. And he says that my mother and I cannot understand him. But at the beginning of last summer, he decided. He said that the three of us were going to his distant native village until September. He planned this trip when I was little. We couldn't combine my parents' vacations and my school holidays all the time. As a result, Dad fulfilled his promise when I turned 19. But to be honest, I wish he'd never done that. At first, it seemed to me that my father was exaggerating when he talks about fabulous landscapes. But when we got to his hometown, I literally took my breath away. It was just as he said. Crystal lakes reflecting the sky, like mirrors. Beyond the small village stretched an endless green forest, and above it towered incredible mountains covered with dense grass. My father immediately became a different person. His face was beaming, and his eyes shone with delight. I've never seen him like this. Even after 20 hours behind the wheel, he jumped out of the car full of vitality. My legs and back were numb all the way, and I crawled out of the car in anticipation of the long-awaited warm-up. Mom was absent all the time. She didn't seem to care about anything at all. Perhaps she could be understood. She worked all year hoping for a vacation by the sea, and my father dragged us to the village, where there are old, creaky beds instead of deck chairs, and mosquitoes instead of evening shows. We were greeted by Grandma and Grandpa. They haven't visited us for 3 years. Of course, I was happy to see them again. I hugged Grandma and noticed that during this time there were more gray strands on her hair, and the wrinkles around the eyes have acquired depth. But Grandfather doesn't seem to have changed at all. The same ashen beard, the same orange and green striped shirt, and the same silly jokes. What a big Polish woman. Soon we'll be harnessing a mare instead, said Grandpa, patting my hair. Oh, come on, don't embarrass the girl, or we'll harness you, old Mirren. My grandmother intervened and, taking my arm, led me into the courtyard. Paul, he's an old fool. Don't listen to his nonsense, the old woman whispered. The beauty has grown up. I've prepared a bedroom for you there. Let's go show you. I've never visited them before. Usually, my father's parents came to us themselves when they had the opportunity. The house is made of a wooden frame, old but solid. There are scarlet roses and currant bushes in the courtyard, framed in one large flower bed with small stones. A real feast was waiting for us inside the wooden house. The table was full of delicious dishes: rooty potatoes, crunchy pickles, homemade grandma's bread, and of course, meat. Fragrant and tender moose meat, golden-crusted pheasant, juicy lamb cutlets, stewed boar ribs. I tried everything, forgetting how important it is to take care of the figure. But I had to at least not burst, so I shooed myself away from the table and went to take a shower after a long drive. Then, after changing into a comfortable tracksuit, I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. At that moment, I was most interested in the forest. I've never seen such huge fir trees in my life. They were as tall as 9-story buildings and stood like a green wall, blocking out the rest of the world. I went to the edge of the forest to look into its dark depths. I inhaled the fresh scent of pine needles. There was a solid shadow beyond the line. Somewhere a woodpecker rattled and other birds screamed in different voices. I wanted to take a photo and was rummaging in the pocket of my sweatshirt when a voice rang out behind me. I jumped in surprise and turned around sharply. Behind me stood an old man, tall and gaunt. Long gray hair stuck out from under the cap. He was wearing a greasy camouflage jacket and had a rifle slung over his back. The old man raised his head and revealed a wrinkled face that had previously hidden the shadow from the visor. His left eye seemed paler than his right and had a dead luster. And from the lower eyelid to the corner of the court stretched a deep scar, as if from an animal claw. "Why are you scaring me? They're crazy!" I was indignant. "Don't go in there, girl," the old man said in a strangled voice. "This is a wild forest. There are predators there." The strange man looked at me without blinking or from his rude appearance. The old man was silently waiting for something. I felt some inexplicable anxiety from his presence and went back to the house. And the man with the rifle went into the woods and got lost among the trees. When I returned, I told my father about the encounter with the strange hunter. Dad grinned in response and said, "You're the one who met Grandfather Nestor, the eternal old man." I was still a kid, and he already seen gold. He's the main local hunter. Where do you think the game is on our table? He gets it for almost the whole village. And the forest here is really wild. There are not only animals, but also all kinds of pits, deep as mines. A lot of people have disappeared there. But Nestor walks around, and nothing happens to him. He knows all the places. He's got a scary eye. People say he was skinned by a bear. Grandfather himself is not very talkative, just climbs through the woods and sells game. He told you right. Don't go into the woods alone. You better do it. Take a bike and ride to the lake. It's beautiful there. The beach, the sand. The boys and I spent our entire childhood there, and I listened to his advice. The next morning, I found my father's old bike in the barn. I washed the dust off, pumped up the wheels, and went to the pond. The road led past more often. And now, I was scared. What if a bear jumps out from behind the trees? Trying to stay away from the edge of the forest, I pedaled quickly and did not notice how I got to the silent, deep lake. There are no souls around. It's quiet, the surface of the water, and the scorching sun. I got off the bike, took off my clothes and shoes, and felt the warm sand on my bare feet. The lake beckoned with its pleasant freshness, so I almost without hesitation jumped into the water. Oh my God! It was icy, despite the hot weather. What was I even thinking? June, the morning after a cool night. What else could there be water? I surfaced, panting from the cold. I climbed out onto the shore and decided that I had bathed enough. I dried off a little in the sun, got on my bike and raced back. I was driving down the road, and my skin was still crawling. And suddenly a guy on a speed bike followed me. He easily caught up with me, and said, "Hi, who are you?" I asked suspiciously, not understanding why he was greeting me. "I just saw you at the lake just now," he replied, smiling. I'm not used to standing on ceremony with strangers, so I asked straight out, "Do you always sit in the bushes there and peek at the girls?" "No, I just happened to be passing by. Thought I'd say hello and find out about the area." The guy was embarrassed. "You're from here, right?" He was kind of okay, but he was a little older than me, a blond man with bright eyes and a beautiful smile. But I didn't like it when people tried to get to know me out of the blue, even under such strange circumstances. No, not from here. I came to visit my relatives in the village. I don't know anything about it, I replied coldly, trying to pedal harder. But the old wreck beneath me only creaked louder and didn't pick up speed at all. I'm from the campsite, the blond man said. Can I come with you to see what kind of village you have there? Well, let's go, I replied, thinking that with him in the company, it would not be so scary to drive past the forest. What's your name? I'm Igor. The guy did not lose hope of getting to know each other. Pauline, I replied. When he heard my name, he repeated it as if he had received the green light for a conversation. Nice to meet you, Paulina. I wasn't spying on you. Honestly, I just woke up early. The guys are sleeping, but, you know, I'm used to being active all night. I thought about how far you can go here. I used to participate in triathlons. Do you know what a triathlon is? This is when running, swimming, and... It was difficult for me to get into what he was saying because I was worried about the feeling of pressure in my stomach. I braked sharply and, without explaining anything, went off the road into the enemy. I could have gone into the woods, but now I didn't want to go anywhere near him. Where are you going? Igor asked, slowing down. I'm not one of those who is afraid to make a bad impression, so I answered. Let me take a piss in peace, huh? Got it, the guy said, and waited for me by the road. While I was peeing, he was already thinking, and the decrepit bike couldn't stay on the running board and flew to the bottom of the ravine with a rattle from the old bell. Holy shit! I cursed, pulled on my leggings, and started to get him out of the burdock bushes. I was dragging my bike down the slope, and when I started to approach the edge of the road, I froze when I saw what Igor was doing. He was standing with his back to me and facing the forest, his arms held high. I immediately guessed that something was fishy here. She quieted down and ducked. In the forest, as if hiding in the shadows, stood Grandfather Nestor, pointing a rifle at the guy. What are you doing? Igor asked quietly and uncertainly. Follow me, the hunter said firmly. Igor walked slowly towards him. His arms were still raised high. I wanted to intervene, but I realized that the man with the gun didn't care. How many unarmed tourists are there in front of him? 1 or 2? Maybe they didn't share something while I was gone. I didn't know what to do and just watched, hiding in the enemy. They disappeared into the dark depths of the forest. Igor's bike was left standing on the edge of the road. I thought I should hurry to the village and tell my father that Grandfather Nestor had gone off the rails and taken the guy into the thicket, threatening him with a rifle. But was it possible to just leave? Leaving Igor with this crazy grandfather? And I followed them, trying not to give myself away. She ran from tree to tree and hid behind the trunks. Adrenaline was pumping from the feeling of fear. Far ahead, the grandfather led the guy, as if to be shot, pointing the muzzle at his back. He urged me to go faster. I didn't understand the meaning of this strange scene. The hunter led Igor to a small sunny meadow surrounded by tall fir trees. What have I done to you? The guy didn't understand. The hunter walked away from him at a distance of several meters and said, Sit on your knees. What are you up to? No need. Let me just leave and that's it, the guy hurriedly said in a trembling voice, but still sat down on the ground. Draw a moose, the old man ordered menacingly, swinging his rifle. What can I do? "What are you doing?" Igor was surprised. I said, "Show me the moose." Grandfather growled angrily, pulling the shutter. "How? Is that so?" The guy smiled awkwardly and put his hands to his head as if they were horns. My heart sank. Something terrible was happening in front of my eyes. Something that doesn't fit into the framework of adequacy. "Yes, that's it," said the hunter, and pulled the trigger. A deafening gunshot rolled through the forest. I squeezed my eyes shut and put my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. I couldn't believe my grandfather had done it. He just killed a random tourist. Shot him right in the head. Barely breathing, I cautiously peeked out from behind the tree. Blood splattered the guy's brains across the clearing. Now he was lying dead. I stared at this eerie picture, unable to look away, overcome by shock and misunderstanding of what was happening. After examining the corpse in the clearing, the old man suddenly walked towards me. I quickly sat down on the ground and disappeared into the dense bracken. He passed by without noticing me. I exhaled softly. My heart was pounding. The killer had left, but he could return at any moment. I realized that I need to calm down right now. Turn off all your senses and collect evidence. I knew I was taking a big risk, but I couldn't just leave. My trembling hand missed my pocket several times, but in the end I took out my phone, turned on the camera, and started filming. A corpse in a clearing, blood, pieces of brains, lying on the grass. Even through the camera, it was unbearable to watch. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Terrible, just terrible. There was a rustle of branches at the edge of the thicket. I hid again and peeked out of hiding. The old hunter drove Yegor's bike through the blade. He dragged it to the lumpy rocks and threw it down somewhere like garbage. The bike hit something hard with a bang. I remembered what my father had said about deep pits and realized that one of those stones was hidden. The old man went back to the clearing where the dead guy was lying. I sat there, not breathing, waiting for the right moment when I could escape. The hunter bent over the body, covering the whole picture with his back. I couldn't see what was going on there, but I could hear the sharp sounds of a knife cutting through flesh. I snaked through the thicket so that not a single fern moved, not a single branch cracked. She approached the bumpy rocks and peered down. It was not a pit, but a whole gorge. There was total darkness under the overhanging cobblestones. Yegor's bike sank somewhere in it. I don't know if it made sense, but then I was in a state of shock and felt it necessary to take a picture of him, so I turned on the flash on my phone and took a picture. A terrifying scene flashed by in the momentary light. There was a whole dump of bicycles, mopeds, and backpacks at the bottom. How many people had been ruined by this nutcase? And no one knew about it. People had to find out the truth immediately. The evidence was in my phone, just to get out of here alive. It's time to run away. I took one last look towards the clearing and squinted, wanting to see what was happening there. But I couldn't see the old man too far away, and the trees were blocking my view. To hell with it. I decided and looked around anxiously, trying to remember where to go. Which way is the road? It's a dense forest with identical trees everywhere. And suddenly, a hunter caught my eye. He was standing in the distance, pointing a rifle at me. "Come on! Come here!" the grandfather shouted. I remembered what happened to Igor when he obeyed, so I thought, "No, you old prick," and immediately rushed into the forest, trying to dodge so that the madman couldn't hit me. I ran as fast as I could, my hair clinging to the spruce paws, needles hitting my hands. A shot rang out. My frantic heart skipped a beat. Somewhere nearby, a bullet flew into the barrel, and she turned around. The hunter was running after me. He ran too fast for an old man. He knew I couldn't be missed. My eyes have seen too much. Endless trees flashed before me. I realized too late that I was running in the wrong direction. My lungs were clenching with treacherous pain. A cough rose in his throat. Menacing and heavy footsteps were approaching from behind, and then a blow landed in my back, which literally slammed my chest into the ground. My grandfather hit me with the butt of a rifle and then grabbed my leg and dragged me along the ground. Clutching at the grass, I screamed all over the forest, but a menacing voice silenced me. "Shut up! I'll blow your brains out." "I can't stand a woman scream," the grandfather growled. "Let me go," I begged. The hunter dropped my foot and clicked the bolt of his rifle. "Then get up and walk by yourself." His scar crossing his face, blind eye, and hands stained with blood, looked monstrous. He was evil itself. I got up and walked forward, barely moving my wobbly legs. The hunter and I went out into the clearing, where the already decapitated corpse lay. My sanity seemed to be leaving me. I could feel the chill of approaching death on the back of my neck. My stomach was turning over, and my body was numb with fear. Is this really my last day? No one will hear my screams. No one will come to help. I looked at Igor's lifeless body and realized that in a moment I would be lying next to him. My brain refused to accept it as reality. I got hysterical. Why? I kept repeating like crazy. "You sit down. Come on," the old man said, pointing to the edge of the clearing. I sat down and continued to ask, unable to contain the horror that tore my soul from the inside. "Why? Why are you doing this?" "I'm a hunter," grandfather replied. "And people, you know, are no worse than animals and birds, even more interesting. Animals always react the same way. They see a man, they hear gunshots, they run. But people aren't like that. You point a gun at a man, and he freezes. Tell him to go, and he'll go. He'll do what you say. Like a charmed man." I averted my eyes so as not to see his terrible face. In my opinion, I fell back on the severed, mutilated head of the guy that was lying at the roots of the tree. Dry pine needles stuck to the dead face. I wish I'd left when I had the chance. I also always wonder what people will say before they die. The old man muttered, as if talking to himself. Who's talking about parents? Who's talking about children? Everyone wants to soften my heart. I wish I was compassionate. Would I have become a hunter? You have to be as hard as a rock to pull the trigger. He clenched his fist, pretending to be a stone, as if proud of his brutal nature. Nestor told this in a calm tone, without any emotion, as if by the way. And all this time I was on my knees and looked into Igor's extinguished eyes. I was so scared that I couldn't move. And I also like to feed people with human flesh. Suddenly, the old man grinned. His lips stretched into a crooked grin, revealing yellowed teeth. I tell them, it's a bulbriatina, or it's a moose. And the villagers are eating, smacking their lips and praising. Ha ha. How disgusting his laughter was. The laugh of a soulless killer. He drank in his permissiveness and choked on saliva mixed with coughing. I want to give you a try now. I wonder what you say? I've never eaten myself. Those words made my throat constrict, as if it were in a vice. his cheeks filled with the acid of his oncoming vomit, and Grandfather Nestor wasn't joking at all. He sat down over the headless corpse, turned it over on its stomach, pulled off his trousers, and took a hunting knife from his bosom. With one deft movement, he brushed the white skin off the guy's buttock and then carefully sliced off a piece of red meat. I shook my head. "Willy-nilly, but eat it," said the old man, coming up to me. "Come on, don't be stubborn, girl." He held a piece of meat in front of my face, holding it between his thumb and forefinger. A knife glittered in his other hand. A rifle was slung over his shoulder. I pressed my lips together tightly and clenched my teeth. "Come on, open your mouth." My grandfather put a knife in his jacket pocket and grabbed my chin. His creepy dead eye looked straight into the soul. I opened my mouth, unable to resist. Human meat fell on my tongue, and my mouth was filled with the taste of blood. "Two," the old man ordered. My eyes stung, and tears rolled down my cheeks. An unbearable nausea rose in his throat. I held back vomiting and moved my jaw. She was grinding a wet, fibrous piece with her teeth. "Is it delicious?" he asked with sadistic satisfaction. I nodded my head, holding the bloody meat in my mouth. "I thought meat was delicious and there was meat, right?" said the old man. "Girl, I don't like you women. You're all crazy. I had to deal with one here in the woods when I was young. She fought with me like she was immortal. Do you see what you've done?" He ran his finger over the scar. "I've been seeing with one eye ever since, and with the other," he began, but I didn't let him finish by spitting meat in his face. And concentrating the strength of my whole body in 3 fingers, I stabbed him in his good eye. She drove her nails under his eyelids, squeezed the apple, and pulled sharply. I don't know how I did it. The old man screamed. His hands flashed the knife again, but the blow missed. He couldn't see anything anymore. His crushed eye was impaled on my sharp nails. I tore it up by the roots and rushed to the side. And I was running away from there, thinking that I would give my manicurist a bottle of the most expensive wine. And I thought it was funny. This was probably how my psyche protected itself from the nightmare. It took me a long time to convince the villagers who their beloved grandfather Nestor really was and what kind of game he served them on the table. People didn't want to believe it. They brushed it off. They said I was crazy, but they had to accept the truth. A day later, the old man was found in the pit where he had dumped the dead men's belongings. He was dead, his neck broken, falling on rusty bicycles. I hope that there is a hell for people like him, and he fell into it.